Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about the metaverse in the business setting. Certainly, Facebook and other companies promote the metaverse as a consumer play. We're looking at it from the enterprise standpoint. What does the metaverse mean for businesses? To discuss that, I'm joined by Soumya Das, Chief Operating Officer of Inpixon. Soumya, very good to have you with us today.
James, thanks for having me.
And I know you normally go by the nickname Das. Am I correct in thinking that?
That's correct. Das is my last name. It makes life easier. Friends call me Das. So let's just stick to that.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the metaverse. I mean, I think a lot of people see the metaverse as a distant emerging technology. What's your view on the current real world impact of metaverse technology? Is it here yet?
I think metaverse as a concept is, getting introduced, but uh, we think of it as B2C or business to consumer. Acceptance moves into B2B very quickly, right? So once people start to get familiarize themselves into different technology that they use in their day-to-day life, and they see that showing up in business. So we see the same thing, metaverse. Yes, Facebook and these guys or Meta started talking about it, but in business we see that in virtual events or in office settings, right? The idea of metaverse is experience. So think about it in a hybrid workplace or in a distant office scenario where individuals are joining in a virtual setting. Instead of just having squares on a screen, you have a nice meeting room that you're used to, right? So you have got this virtual setting of a meeting room, individuals sitting around having a conversation. You have your avatars maybe showing up. So these things are getting introduced into meeting rooms. Like I said, from the experience standpoint, I think it's all about gaining efficiency, gaining more immersive, engaging user experience, and that's where that's coming to business. I will also say in the corporate world, as we find ourselves in a hybrid situation because of this pandemic, people coming back to work, they're looking at different scenarios where you're doing hoteling or hot desking, and you're trying to choose which desk you want to get to, where your colleagues are sitting. So having a metaverse helps you make those choices, right? Helps to see a virtual environment where you're going to head into. So there are a few applications that I'll say our customers are dabbling in.
Mhm. What do you think is holding us back from the metaverse? I mean, I know it's on the way. I mean, in some cases it's months, it's years away. But is it hardware that is more the challenge? Is it software? Is it overall cultural experience? What is holding the metaverse back?
Yeah, it's a mix of all of those that you mentioned. So hardware wise, our devices are very limited. Is this only 2-inch by 4-inch or 6-inch by 3-inch screens? So there's so much you can experience from it, and that's why we have always 2D flat user interface. As we come up with these ocular glasses and headsets, we have the new technology coming in with the augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality. Those kind of technology is very immersive. So the display has to change. So hardware requirement comes into play. Then you have to build the environment. So there's a piece of development required from a technology standpoint to convert into the metaverse compatible environment. And the third is user behavior, right? The user, slowly has to adapt to this new scenario and find it immersive and engaging, so they continue to use. It cannot be gimmicky because people kind of shy away from things like that. So it has to be efficient.
Mhm. So let's talk about the role of the digital twin in metaverse technology. First of all, can you give us the nutshell definition of what a digital twin is for those who don't know? But then, how does it support the metaverse?
Yeah, so think about it from an enterprise standpoint. What all the things we were talking about, the office situation, the meeting rooms, the virtual events and stuff.
Mhm.
Digital twin is more applicable to the industrial part, right? Where you have got warehouses, manufacturing, supply chain. And that's where you will require technology coming in and helping with the efficiency on that level. So
Mhm.
digital twin is basically a representation of your physical item in a digital world,
Right.
right? Where you might pick up a particular piece of equipment and you will not know what it is. So you will look at a label, right? And you will read the label and it will tell you what it is. So imagine in the digital verse, you will have the picture of that particular item with all the metadata attached to it. So you will see when it was purchased or what user manual it consists of and things like that. And
Can I ask
that's
you one
what the
question
digital,
about that? If I may, if I just
yeah,
for
sure.
example, I mean, I think in one real world application might be, say, there's a windmill in a California wind farm, and there's an actual physical windmill, but then they have a digital representation of that on a computer, and they realize, well, this could handle 80 miles an hour of wind, and above that, it can't handle it. But there's a digital representation, and then there's the actual windmill. Is that a correct way of thinking about a digital twin?
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one way to look at it. I'll give an example. The week before last, I was in Frankfurt visiting one of our customers who are a maintenance facility for aircraft engines. Right, it's a big facility with lots of parts stored in big bins stacked in a warehouse. Very expensive parts. And it's very hard to locate, right? So when you're working on an aircraft engine, you have to locate these parts. You have to, make sure that they are in the right, dimensions. They're the right part numbers. Now, digital twin helps a lot with those. So what we do is provide locational context of where those parts are stored. And in the digital context, you can go and you see exactly which bin it is in and all the details that comes with it. And that's where I'll say digital twin is application-wise helping the industry quite a bit.
So there might be a series of designers, they're working on an airplane engine, and they're in this virtual reality, and they're looking at a virtual representation of the airplane engine, and they're all working on it together. That's an
Right.
application of a digital twin in the metaverse.
Yes. See,
Yeah.
imagine the engine being then blown up into bits and pieces, right? And you can see exactly where the parts go, and you can go in and, look at each part and what their make is. And then you can see where the supply chain details are. So everything is connected and it's very efficient, right? Again, going back to that experience, right, of that particular individual who's working on it. It's very efficient, it's very engaging, and they save, time and money doing it.
So let's talk about Inpixon. Your company, what's the company currently working on? What's the Inpixon advantage?
Yeah, so Inpixon is all about indoor intelligence. Intelligence comes from data. So we are about collecting indoor data, and we collect indoor data in every which way possible, and enable our customers to take that data, convert it into intelligence with their experience and knowledge, and provide employees with a better way to conduct themselves. Right. So we work with mapping, positioning. We have got hardware from chip level all the way full stack to application. We have got a platform that manages all the positioning stuff, analytics, and overall program of getting an app ready for the customers to use. So when we are constantly working on that experience. We're constantly working on how can we make it better for our customers to look around the corner. So, for example, our customers are working with 2D technology when it comes to mapping, right? So it's a flat surface, and now with immersive augmented reality, we're adding a three-dimensional mapping to that, right? So not only now that you can see a blue dot that follows you and takes you to your destination, but you can hold your mobile device up and you can see actual picture of the surrounding and a line that follows you around. So it's more immersive. You don't need to have beacons anymore because it gets the visual context and knows exactly where you are in the building. So it can find you and then follow you through, right? So we are working on those. We're working on improving our apps for our customers to help in employee experience. So engaging with hotel and hot desking. Say, for example, James, if you are coming into the office and you have booked a particular desk and you want your colleagues to come and join you on that desk, right? So you will be able to book it together. That's an experience that was not there. So we are trying to enhance those app experiences. We are also providing technology to our customers where they can do their executive briefing centers. Before the pandemic, executive briefing centers were places where companies will bring their clients, come in and do a good show and tell, entertain them, present to them with a new things that they're working on. Now it's all gone virtual. So you need a virtual executive briefing center. So we provide that. We also provide a events platform. Earlier this week, I was in Las Vegas. One of our customer had their hybrid event there. So there were 3,000 people present at the event, but there was around 7,000 joining online. So we have a platform where we're enabling both the physical presence of the attendees and the virtual attendees come together.
It's really it's a virtual webinar, a virtual event platform. It could be many people having breakout rooms and videos and everything.
Yeah, virtual and physical coming together. So, for example, if you have a session going on, you're watching it, in person, but also there are people who are joining in virtually and watching the same event, and they get that immersive experience of seeing the individual presenter present, while they also see the slideshow. They can join in with questions. There's a chat room going back and forth. So yeah, it's all inclusive.
No doubt that is the future. Speaking of which, I'd love to get your sense of what you see in terms of the near term and maybe not so near, maybe a few years out for the future of the enterprise metaverse. What's going to be maybe a trend or a milestone we should look out for?
I think the big trend that's coming in, the 5G, which starts to give you the pipe, which is bandwidth, right? It's all about communication and bandwidth. So the more communication you have, the better bandwidth you will need, because you want the instant communication, right? You can't have any latency, and that also improves the edge computing. So a lot of things will be happening within your premises than taking the time to go to the cloud and bring things down. So there will be a lot of security aspect to that. There's also display. I think the display technology will improve considerably in the near term, because if you don't have good display, it's very difficult to promote metaverse. Like these small screens are just not going to do justice to some of the ideas that are forming in the metaverse.
Josh, that is fascinating. It's going to be an interesting sector to follow, no doubt about it. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. I appreciate you being on.
Thanks for this opportunity, James. Really appreciate it.